You know, I've talked a lot about concealed carry since 2014 when I started the channel, and kind of built the channel based on concealed carry and the guns that were being offered at the time and the evolution of those guns. And while I feel like I've done a pretty good job in telling y'all what I think are the best guns and why, I don't know that I've ever went beyond that and talked about some of the things that suck with concealed carry. And there's some guns out there that make concealed carry suck more. There's some that make it suck less. I want to really focus on those guns today. The guns that are great for carry for people that hate to carry. And so what do I mean by that? Well, the gun itself, the uncomfortableness of it, the weight, the way the gun is designed sometimes. Some of the features can make an otherwise fairly comfortable gun uncomfortable to carry. So I'm going to talk about some of those guns that I think are great for people that hate to carry, that hate how burdensome it can be, but also just touch on some of those guns or, some of those features really that make concealed carry suck just a little bit more. Now, to fully acknowledge this, there's going to be people in the comments, I'm sure, of this video that say, you know what, if you can't carry a full-size 2011 with 14 extra magazines on you, you shouldn't be carrying a gun. The super tactical ones, this ain't the right video for you. You got to go elsewhere in order to find the super tactical stuff. This is for the real people out there that actually do carry every single day, but for whatever reason may have limitations or just may hate the process overall. Because at the end of the day, we want more good gun owners carrying, period. So that's who this video is designed for. I'm going to give you my opinions along the way as to which guns I think are the best for this segment of gun owners and why, and I want to hear your opinion, whatever it might be. What do you think the best carry gun is for somebody that actually hates the process of carrying a firearm? Let me know down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, I want to add this in there because this is important. Each one of these guns, while we will mention specs, I think each one of these guns actually has like one or two features that makes it really good for carry. On the flip side, each one of the guns might be really good in one area, but might suck in another. So it's not just going to be, hey, these are the specs, that's why it's great. They all have very specific characteristics I want to touch on. That's what makes them different and interesting, okay? So just want to throw that out there. The place to start, in my opinion, is what I think is probably one of the guns that most people can carry and be super comfortable with, and that is the Bodyguard 2.0. Now, Smith & Wesson, right, for full transparency, sent me these firearms. I reviewed them, I thought they were great, and I still think they're great. You know, there's not too many guns out there that can achieve the weight, 9.8 ounces unloaded, and still give you a shootable gun. The smaller the gun typically is what I think a lot of people gravitate towards because they're like, man, that's going to disappear on me. And while that may be true, that does not always equate, actually quite the opposite. It equates to a gun that actually shoots worse, that you may hate to shoot and then end up leaving the gun at home. Smith & Wesson was able to strike that really good balance between a gun that's light, carryable, shootable, and has all the right features where you want it. Now, there are some limitations that I'll talk about with the Bodyguard, but overall, it really just disappears on you. This is the carry comp, which is just a little bit bigger than the Bodyguard 2.0. Has the integrated comp, of course, keeping the recoil down just a little bit compared to this gun. And it offers all of the same great benefits plus some. And then, when you load it up fully, you're at, like 15 ounces. You're still under a pound with this gun. Here's where Smith & Wesson got it right, though. They didn't try to give you some super tiny gun with the smallest possible grip. They still kept the height of the gun where a lot of people can get a full grip on it and still be able to present it out, and I think probably be very effective with it. You have 10 and 12 round magazines, the texturing on it, right? So if you have this texturing up against your skin, it's not too rough where it's gonna, tear your skin up or tear up an undershirt or anything like that. They actually switched to the new style serrations. And so while these guns can be definitely harder to rack depending on, a multitude of variables that certain people may have, whether that's arthritis or weakness or whatever, they still gave you these, I call them the competitor slide serrations, because that was the first gun I've seen from Smith that actually had these style, and to me they're superior than what they used to put on the gun. But Overall, it's a fantastic, fantastic package. And you have the blacked out rear sight, bright yellow ring in the front with that tritium insert. So that gives you the night sight capability too. You also have an interesting version of the flat face trigger that they've put here. And while it's an interesting design because of the way they have that safety, essentially that entire blade in the front of the trigger is the safety disconnect. And then the reset, audible, tactile, right? Get to the wall, pull straight through. So a consistent trigger, a small package, a light gun, but fairly shootable. It is not the best shooting gun on this list, but for overall balance of everything you get, I think Smith & Wesson pretty much nailed this platform. Now there's also a new one with the Viridian optic on it, super slimline, so nothing's hanging off of the gun. That's a fairly tall optic too. I have not used it. I've not shot that gun with that optic on it, but that's an option. But whenever you add an optic, sometimes depending on the optic, it can actually make carrying the gun more uncomfortable, but then it can also become a little bit more shootable too. So it really depends on where you're carrying, how you're carrying, and how much you're willing to tolerate when it comes to the gun and what's kind of sticking up off of it. Hey, here's something you probably don't hear too often. This video is actually sponsored by myself, and I'm not getting paid for this, so I guess technically it's not sponsored, but I wanted to mention Swamp Ghost, which is a company I started a couple of months ago for my 2A community out there that loves to be on the water as well. One of the biggest things that I've struggled with my entire life when fishing is just consistently catching more fish. That's all I care about. I'm not looking to join some kind of freaking tournament. All I want to do is catch more fish. That's why I started Swamp Ghost, and that is the goal of the company. No matter if you're new to fishing or an experienced angler, the baits that I produce, which are handmade, have very specific color combinations that trigger reactive strikes, pure curiosity, or a combination of all of those things. I can tell you it's absolutely worked. And I recorded each one of those trips too. Made a whole separate YouTube channel for it as well. So if you like to fish and you want to try something completely different and something that I've been able to prove that actually works, make sure you just check out Swamp Ghost. I'll leave a link down below for y'all. Then on the other end of the spectrum, right, we have the latest and greatest 380, which, like I said, I think is fantastic. And then one that looks dated by comparison now, which is fascinating to me, is the Glock 42. Now, let me make this known. If you don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of Glock. I think there are much better options out there. With that said, there's a lot of people that still choose Glock because it's Glock. Maybe that's the platform that they're used to. They shoot it the best. That's what they're going to carry. I respect that. I'm okay with that. And so that is who this segment is for. The people that just know I'm going to carry a Glock. I don't care what else is out there. Okay? Well, the 42, when it comes to just pure comfort, is the gun. Now, the caveat there is that it is a standard 6-round magazine. We just talked about one with 10 and 12 rounds, okay? That's significant, right? Look, I've never been in a self-defense situation, and I hope I never am. If that means I don't have the experience and you say, hey, you have no right to talk about any of this stuff, okay, totally fine. But I will say it. Just because you have a gun does not mean that this 6 rounds is going to be sufficient. We can look at self-defense cases, we can look at police interactions and shootings and things that happen out there and know that the vast majority of the shots in your firearm may not hit the target that's intended. That is the reality. That doesn't mean you just carry a gun and that you never shoot it and all that kind of stuff. The reality is, though, the adrenaline, the situation, your training, your lowest level of training is what you might probably divert to in a stressful situation. Do I want to carry a gun with just 6 rounds? Well, if it's 2014, well, it might be all I have. But I'm going to be carrying a spare mag just in case. That's the importance of these guns. While maybe a little bit bigger in some areas, that benefit right there alone is probably worth it. Now, there's some aftermarket options and stuff. You know, I would say fully test those before you trust them with your life. I typically will go with the OEM mags only. Now, I know that Glock actually has the slimline mags now for like the Glock 43X. That is a much taller gun. And the grip height is what a lot of people end up trying to conceal. This measurement right here is one of the most important when you're going for ultra concealable firearm. This measurement in the grip length specifically can allow you to pocket carry or maybe not. This might work for appendix carry, but if the grip length is too long, maybe not. This might work great in an off carry bag, right? If you're, a purse or whatever the case may be. Not the recommended way to carry, but people will carry like that. So this grip length right here is super important. And that's why this gun is so great, because it fits a wide range of shooters. Not just women, by the way. Right? There's a lot of dudes out there rocking a t-shirt and swimming trunks this time of year. This might be a great option if you're somebody that is really into Glock. And interestingly, I mean, this was the smallest gun in my lineup for the longest time. Now it's actually wider and longer than the standard carry comp. And, believe it or not, they are just about the same size. Pretty freaking impressive what the technological advancements have allowed some of these companies to do. The aftermarket support, by the way, is going to be there. And while I don't think this is the best shooting gun, I think it takes some practice. In the world of older 380s, this was one of the best, and it still is a really good option for those that want something simple, reliable, and easy to carry. For the people out there that say, man, I don't need the smallest gun, I just need a gun that doesn't shoot like the smallest gun on the list. Well, this to me is probably the best option. Plus, it is the best budget option on this list too, and that is the Taurus GX4 XL. Now, we could also talk about the standard GX4 as well. This one is going to be a bit shorter, but I think the benefits gained with the XL actually make it worth carrying this model. Now, there is still an active recall on some of the serial numbers out there. Some of them can actually fire unintendedly when dropped. So just keep that in mind. But getting past that, overall, I got to be honest with you, the GX4, probably even the G3, when I shot that gun, really made me kind of realize that Taurus in general is on a different path, at least from what I've seen. And this gun has been super reliable, right? Direct mount for your optics, the 507K, the RMR with an adapter plate, the Shield RMSC footprint, even the sight mark mini shot, right? All direct thread, no extra plates needed except for the RMR. So it's a bit bigger all the way around. It's very similar to the size and weight of what you would find carry guns that, are coming like circa, 2015, 2016. Pretty much all the carry guns before the P365 was really introduced. And even some of the carry guns now are about that 1 inch wide. Has that ever affected me personally? No. As long as you get a good holster, good gun belt, those two things essentially can help eliminate some of the uncomfortable nature that a bigger gun, at least on this list, is going to have. So anyways, front and rear slide serrations, very simple. They're cut deep enough into the slide. They do the job just fine. You're not going to have a rail up front for a light or a laser. So if that doesn't mean anything to you, then you don't have to worry about it. But it's not there. Fairly comfortable trigger guard cut right in here, right? It's not a super high undercut, but it's comfortable enough you can get your hand pretty high up on the gun, and a very natural pointing gun too. Here's the other thing that Taurus did really well. They gave you a semi-aggressive grip texturing while keeping it very manageable and not super rough on the skin. Now, unloaded, you're going to be at 20 ounces. So the extra shootability, and by the way, this gun is super shootable, but the extra shootability will come at a cost, coming in at double the weight of what the Bodyguard did, with that longer sight radius of the XL specifically. Coupled with the 11-round standard magazine, I think they struck almost the perfect balance when it comes to shootability, grip length, and the capacity of the gun. By the way, MSRP on these things is way less than $400. Verify that it's not affected by the recall. Shoot it with whatever rounds you intend on carrying. Make sure that you trust it. But overall, I've had nothing but great luck with the Taurus GX4 XL. As a matter of fact, I think it's probably my favorite Taurus that I've personally handled up to this point. Here's a gun I talked a lot about, and this one basically changed concealed carry, and it still continues to evolve. That's the P365, but the one I'm holding here specifically is the standard P365. Still has a curved trigger, X-ray sights, no optic cut. But what Sig was able to do with a gun that was smaller than most of the carry guns at the time, it was shorter than most of the carry guns at the time, and they were still able to give us 10+1 capacity. That's impressive. And it's still impressive. That's why it's one of the best-selling guns in the United States still. Now, there's a bunch of different variants now, the Spectre Comp being my favorite. But that gun is a little bit longer. And the Spectre Comp version of the XL specifically, the texturing on the grip is a bit rougher. So I'll wear, a lot of times, an undershirt with that gun because it's got that laser engraved grip, all that kind of stuff. But the standard version of the P365, it's still really good. It's just small enough where if you got bigger pockets, you could pocket carry it. But I think for most people with the overall size, length of the grip, the weight, I think that most people could carry this gun comfortably. Here's the other thing. This gun probably has the best set of standard sights on any gun, period. And on a small gun like this, in my opinion, you want two things. A decent trigger, a good trigger specifically, but a decent trigger and a good set of sights. You have a very short sight radius. And so in order to make those shots count where they need to, those two things combined, along with good trigger control and technique and form and all that kind of stuff matters too. But those two things combined make this gun one of the best options out there for people that really just hate carrying a big gun. Now I'm saving the best for last. I think in this video, what I think has become one of, if not the best representations of every gun I just talked about on the list. Before I do that though, one gun I want to throw in here is the Shield Plus. This is still a gun that not a lot of people talk about, but I think offers so much in return. A good price, a ton of variants, optics ready. If you want to go bigger, more aggressive Shield Plus, you can do that with the X. If you want to go smaller, more conservative with the Shield Plus, you can do that as well. And anything in between, fantastic platform. While it's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier in some areas, they've been able to trim some of the weight down off of that gun actually and still retain the shootability. When it comes to the best shooting gun on this list, period, that's the Shield Plus. Now, I've talked a lot about that gun, so if you want to check out some of my other videos on the Shield Plus specifically, go for it, but great platform. And while it's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier than some of the guns here, maybe it will take a little bit more dedication to carry, but if you want the most shootable Micro 9 out there, Shield Plus, hands down. But there's also another recommendation, and this gun, I don't know how much attention these things are getting, but I'll tell you, man, I've been carrying this gun for, you know, at least 6-8 months now. I mean, I absolutely love this thing, and that is the Hellcat 380. Now, y'all remember, if you've followed the channel for any length of time, the original Hellcat, not huge fan of. The comped version was better. This, I think, has everything that those guns were maybe lacking in a much more shootable platform. And one of the things that Springfield Armory did specifically when they sent me this one is they sent me one of the new Shield OMSC dots. And so the whole idea of this is it kind of has this panoramic roof on top, okay? So that gives you a little bit wider window, a little bit better field of view, so you're not so constrained in between the sides of the optic itself, where that can cut out, you know, a good amount of your vision. You got a clearer field of view through this one. It's not my favorite optic of all time, but it definitely helps with a smaller platform like this. And it's slimline. It doesn't stick up off the top of the gun all goofy like and everything. It actually fits the platform. So they have the standard U-notch rear sight, the tritium insert up front, bright yellow dot there, so you can see your standard sights pretty well, but this has made this gun, I think, just better for me personally. Sight window, so you can see your brass down in the chamber, front and rear slide serrations. Not super aggressive or anything, but good enough to get the job done. Non-proprietary single slot rail here in the front. Nice undercut under the trigger guard. You can get a nice high profile or nice high grip on the gun whenever you're shooting it. And you have that kind of dual texturing for the grip texture. So to the touch, it's non-abrasive. when you put just a little bit more pressure down on it, it has a secondary layer that is a bit more aggressive, but only whenever you really kind of clamp down on the gun whenever you're firing it. It's not super noticeable, but it's definitely there. They put their Gen 2 trigger in this. Not the best trigger on the list, but it doesn't have to be the best trigger when it has pretty much all the features that you want. 4 inches high with a standard configured magazine, 4.5 inches with the extended 11+1 or 13+1. I actually carry mine consistently with the little pinky extension. It gives just enough, just a little bit more to where the gun feels so freaking good in the hands, and it shoots equally as good. It has everything that I want on a carry gun and nothing I don't. The other thing too is, yeah, these guns might be made in Croatia, but cold hammer forged barrel, like super quality components. And to me, it's the best version of the Hellcat. It kind of takes a little bit of all these guns and gives you the best version of that. One of the most shootable guns on the list. A little bit wider, a little bit bigger, so it fills your hand just a little bit better. The overall length is not crazy, so if you're appendix carrying, that's not something that you really have to worry about. It gives you the ability to add an optic there, which for a lot of these guns can make it or turn it from a decent shooter into a fairly good one. And of course that assumes that you're doing your part on the other end of the gun. But sometimes with the smaller guns, smaller sight radius, they can be harder to shoot. So having that ability to put the dot where you want it, do your part behind the gun, and it just makes your job a little bit easier. Plus, low light situations, there's a whole host of benefits there. But these, in my opinion, are, as of right now, the best carry guns for people that absolutely hate carrying. Now, of course, I'd love to hear your opinion, man. What do you think the best carry gun is for people that just simply don't like the process, but they want to carry? Let me know down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.